I'm gonna try and clean one of the dirtiest comic books I've ever seen. Hey there, I've got a cleaning and pressing video, and in this video I'm going to work on Transformers number 7. I just recently got this from Gmart Comics, and I'll go through the book, show you much more detail, but boy, I typically see dirt on the back cover of a comic, and it's usually just because the book was typically laying down on something, or the back cover is typically, it has some sort of ad with a lighter color background, typically white, and it's just more, as things are laying down on tables and who knows where, in attics and so forth, it just picks up the dirt. Now, if I were to just look at this comic book, it's definitely dirty on the back, but I was shocked to see just how dirty the front of the book was. So let me zoom in, get you some more details, and then I'm going to apply a wet cleaning process to this. And it's going to be interesting because this is going to go over some colors like yellows and reds that will typically get lifted off of a book. And so I'm going to go through and clean it. But first I want to show you, give you kind of an overall grade of the book, show you some of the details, and kind of assess a little bit of a before and after grade. So let me show you the book first. Okay, so here's the book, Transformers 7, and let me show you the back cover first. Like I mentioned before, it has a fair amount of dirt there. I would say this is more typical of books from early 80s, mid 80s at this point, but spine looks pretty decent. A little bit of paper coming up around the staple, but not bad. Corner's pretty good. The back has just some minor creasing right there. Really not much. I mean, you'd miss something like that if you're just giving the book a quick once over. So already, this is where you just start to kind of assess the book. If a book is 9.8 but has this sort of general dirt, I'm probably already right off the bat, at least it's a 9.6, probably a 9.4. A little bit of creasing, I put it right borderline 9.6, 9.4, and then I start to see creases right there, and that's 9.4. Little bit of minor color breaking on that corner, so it definitely justifies the 9.4 that I'm giving it right now. But then kind of feel a little bit of folding and creasing there, and it starts to become a 9.2. You just work your way back from that. Overall, not bad on the back. So I'm kind of working around a 9.2 at this point. Now if we turn it over and look at the spine, there's some creasing around there. So now we're dealing with the 9 for the general crease. But then we also have quite a few spine ticks that are also color breaking. Right in there, there's one. You just count them up. One, couple of hairlines. Maybe they count as 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think that's a printing issue, not a color break. So maybe 6 significant total. And then I just sort of kind of cut that in half and then drop it the appropriate amount of grades. So probably dropping down to, let's say, from a 9.2, probably 8.5. But then we've got a pretty drastic, nasty curling and creasing that's happening here. It's a little bit hard to see in the light, but it's as if I just took this part of the book and turned it up. So now it's an 8. And then last but not least is the dirt. So you can get a pretty good idea once you start looking at Ratchet and Megatron there, just in the details of their art, where you can just see just how dirty that is. And in particular down here in the yellow. I mean, that's pretty nasty, but it's consistent. So I'm thinking if I can clean a little bit, then the rest of it should be able to be cleaned up. Look at the corner box in that, right? So has an opportunity to be drastically improved. I don't think with those color breaks, like I said, I counted about 6. So even off of a 9.8, I'm probably getting, it's probably down to a 9.2 just from the spine itself. And then, that's where 9.0, 9.2, roughly kind of what this book would max out as, in my opinion. There's nothing you can do about the color breaks on the spine, but a good book to practice with nonetheless to wet clean. To finish off my overall assessment and detailed grade here, I think I kind of ended up as an 8, but the amount of dirt that is on this, I'm going to give this a 7.0. I do feel like I could jump it up to a 9 if properly pressed and clean. And like I said, this book is a great book to practice on. It's not a key, but it's nostalgic. It is from, I believe, 1985, right in there. August 1985 by Bob Badansky on script, William Johnson pencils, and a cover by Mark Bright, one of my favorite Iron Man artists. And like I said, just great book to practice on, lots of area for improvement. Even in the trade itself, I get that in there too. You know, that's just with the lettering being in white, if I'm able to get the dirt off of all, I mean, it's dirty everywhere. So what I'm going to try and do here is I'm going to clean parts of the book, and then I want to see kind of how the book looks with part of it wet cleaned before I drop it in the press finally to as the final step in the process. So I'm going to go through the first round of wet cleaning on the book, let it dry, show you kind of side by side, you know, with one side wet clean and the other side not, just to kind of see and kind of look and determine if any color is being lifted, because I'm going to go through the whole front cover, and there's, like I said, there's a lot of colors in here, oranges, yellows, greens, reds, that are typically lifted when you start getting in with an eraser and everything. So this is why I prefer the wet cleaning process. And here we go. This will be the first step into improving Transformers number 7. Okay, so my I basically have this tube of cotton rounds, and then I'm using ImmacuClean, and it is a combination of ImmacuClean concentrate and distilled water. And I don't hold back with these. I'm going to grab a whole stack and get ready to go. These are cheap. You get them on Amazon. You can buy them. I think I got a pack of 3 tubes. So I'm going to take the backing board, and I think what I want to do is, let's just do the right side of the book here. So I'm going to leave this here, and I think I'm going to grab some painter's tape, and I'm going to tape this down to my desk so that nothing moves around. Just for safe measure, I'm going to put one right here on the backing board too. So I just want to make sure that this is all pretty solid on the top. And I'm not taping the actual comic itself, just the board on top of it. I feel like it's pretty sturdy. It's not going to move. I'm going to gently wipe the book. What I've done with this is that when you see some sort of dirt or item, I tried to clean snot off of the back of a book, and you see, like, I want to get in there and scrub with erasers and pads. You end up pulling fibers off of the paper. So on the scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is the most pressure you could possibly put on something, it's a 1 or 2 max. You're just gently wiping. All right, so the pad is a little damp here, and away we go. All right, so we can already see the makeup pad getting dirt on it, and once it does, I just grab another one. It's just not worth rubbing dirt back on itself. Now I have a feeling this one's going to take a couple of passes just because it's so dirty, but we can see dirt coming up off of that for sure. So at this point, I'm tempted to make another pass, but I'm going to let this dry, and then I'll probably, after it's dry, wipe it down again, and then let that dry, and then maybe do a comparison. So that was the first pass through. You can certainly see there it did not get a lot of the dirt, but it did get some of the surface dirt off, as noted from the makeup pads here. All right, so I'm going to pause here and let the book dry, and then I'll take another pass. Okay, so the paper's dried a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and take another pass. You can see the page is sort of lifting up here. It's just from the moisture and the process of it. So here we go. Just going to take another pass, and I'm probably going to go a little bit, again, a pressure of like maybe a 2 or 3, just to make sure that I am trying to get the dirt off. So I'm being extra generous with the amount of moisture and the wiping. And all that means is I just can't take it too far, because I don't want to start scrubbing. So that's probably another pretty good pass there. And now I gotta let it dry again. And it's just that, it's rinse and repeat. And I'm building up those dirty makeup pads. To me, I noticed a little bit more come up off the yellow than before. The trade still looks more or less the same, a little bit cleaner. I just have to keep doing that. And so there may be multiple passes, and it'll be interesting to see just how many passes did that amount of dirt take. So that was pass number 2, and I'm going to let the book set and dry once again. Okay, so this is after pass 2. The book is still drying. I can tell when it's dry because it curls, and then as I start to wipe it down, it flattens here. And you can see some of the wrinkling here. I've noticed it's like, it is improving. It's just, this is where you get a little kind of impatient, where you're like, I would like to have the process go a little quicker, but really patience is the name of the game. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to wipe this book down using a pressure of about 2 or 3, just to make sure that I'm not scrubbing or pulling up any of the paper. All right, more dirt. And then I'm going to move towards the top half of the book here, particular right here around this little word balloon. And then last little pass up near the trade. All right, so that was pass 3. Gonna go ahead and let it dry off one more time, and we will take a look after it is dry. Okay, I'm switching some camera angles here for another round. You can kind of see right in here, these spots, these are being so stubborn, these spots of dirt. So I'm just gonna keep rubbing the cover. I hope that they come off. I feel like with every pass a little bit more is coming off, but it's just being super stubborn. I realize I'm missing some spots here. It's just tough in the yellow. Really, really tough in the yellow. I'm probably rubbing with a pressure of about 3 or 4 now. Just I don't think the 1 and the 2 is really doing it. And not a ton of dirt is really coming up. Just enough. And this might be the last sort of half and half pass. We'll just kind of take a look at it. I think it is improving. It's just slow, and I do want to maximize my time here and start working on the rest of the book. So I'm going to give it one last rub down up here in the trade, and then sort of zoom in and take a look at the progress here. But I think it is looking better. It's just right here in the yellow, it's particularly stubborn. So there we go. So that is another pass with the wet cleaning, Clean, and distilled water. And let's take a look at the progress. All right, just getting in a little bit more closely. Like I was saying, those spots, they're just being stubborn. They're just really, really stubborn in the yellow there in particular. The word balloon looks to be much improved. A little bit of smudging right there, but all in all, much better. You still see some spots there in the trade as well. So it is improving. It's just taking a little while, and that's okay. If I slide the book out a little bit so you can kind of see side by side, it's a little bit of a before and after. So that's the area I have not worked on, and this is the area that I have. So it is better, and I think we'll really see some improvement over there with the corner box. So I'm going to start to work on the rest of the book while the right side dries, just because this particular area of the book is going to have multiple passes. I really don't want to take an eraser to it. As soon as I do, this yellow is going to come right up. So I'm going to keep at it with the wet cleaning and start working on the rest of the book now. Okay, so I'm going to speed up the process a little bit, start working on the rest of the book while this part is still a little damp and is drying. But I want to start to move on and show you some other areas of the book. Again, wiping down with probably about a 3 on the pressure scale, and not trying to rub too much, but boy, already look at that. So put those away. Yeah, just get a lot of that surface dirt off of there. I think that's probably good for that pass. And what I will end up doing is working on the back as well. So the front can kind of dry face down. I've just got a magazine backing board taped down to the desk so it doesn't move. And then just this one, I'm just doing a light, like a 1 to 2 on the pressure scale. And I was rubbing the wrong way. I should rub away from the page. Page was kind of jumping up at me like, hey dummy, wrong way. Make sure I didn't catch it and rip the page. I'm gonna leave that side alone until it dries a little bit. It was getting a little temperamental there. I'll start to work on the rest, just moving away from the spine. Okay, not too much on the back, a little bit. So I'll go ahead and let this dry completely and then check out the front. Okay, so I lost track as far as how many passes I went through on this book. It is horribly wrinkled now, but I believe that I have improved the book. It's not perfect, but I mean, you could see right there, like in Ratchet's arm, there's some dots, but for the most part, even the yellow, you zoom in really close, it looks pretty nasty, but I mean, there's definitely some improvements, but at some point you begin like rubbing the book out of existence. So like there's the corner box. That thing was just awful, but then I do think part of Spidey's forehead started to lift a little bit. So I just had to stop. I just couldn't quite. I mean, I guess I could just continually wipe down this book forever. Yeah, I mean, even up in there. So I don't want to just give up on it, but I am kind of at the point where it's been improved and I can probably just work on this book for another several hours to try and get it perfect. But like I said, there comes a point where everything just gets so wrinkled and the paper just starts to disappear. The back looks really nice. It wasn't too dirty to begin with. I probably wiped down the back 3 times, particularly along the spine. It's still dirty there, as you can see. This is always the thing that I kind of think about. Like, if this was a Hulk 181, would I continue to work on it? Because the more you work on it, the more likely it is that you damage it. And then I'm starting to see things like that scratch there. I believe it was there before, but I didn't really notice. There's a color break still. So what is this book's max anyway? I thought it was a 9 or 9.2 or something like that. It's not. It's probably an 8. So I got rid of the dirt. You know, right now, if I were to press it out, maybe we get it up to the 7.5. I'm just trying to decide if I want to keep wiping the book down or not. I may just let it sort of rest overnight or maybe press it and then clean it one more time. I don't really know. But it's horribly wrinkled right now. So I definitely made it worse, so to speak. If I just left the book alone, it's probably, maybe a VG copy or something like that, or somewhere in the 5.0 range, 5.5. But I think it's better. I do think it's better. It's just when you zoom in and you get really, really close, you still see some of the spots. But there's a lot of, like down there in the green even, it's a little dirty. But there are some places where it really has improved. Like the word balloon there looks pretty good. Trade doesn't look too bad. Corner box still needs a little work. Price box is okay. A little bit there by Ratchet's hand. And again, the corner box with Spidey looks much, much better. So I think I'm going to leave the book and maybe just take a break. And then I'll be maybe motivated to work on it. I've used maybe at least a quarter of these trying to clean it and quite a bit of the MacuClean. So I just don't want to keep, like I said, rubbing the paper to the point where everything just disintegrates. I think that if I walk away from it and try again a little bit later, or even after sitting overnight, maybe I'll be motivated to continue to clean it and get those last bit of trouble spots out. But there it is for now. Pretty good improvement. All right, I wanted to provide a little update here. So this book dried overnight, and then I just gave it another wet cleaning. There's still some troubled areas here. Again, just having a hard time getting all of the dirt out in the yellow as best I can. Most of the dirt has come up. Corner box is looking much, much better. Still, it looks like and it was probably, again, my fault. I always just assume I did something wrong. Just looks like on Spidey's forehead, some color was lifted up. Same thing here in the yellow, just rubbed maybe a little bit too hard. I don't know. So it's like the dirt comes up, but so does the ink. But there's so much dirt, or there was so much dirt. It's hard to get every little bit, but it is looking better. But it's a little wet right now, still drying. I have lost track as far as just how many passes I've gone through the book. It's probably been somewhere 6 to 8 passes. I don't quite know, but I'm at the point now where I do want to call it, but after looking at it with a fresh pair of eyes the next day, it certainly does look improved. It's just I'm being like super nitpicky and critical, where I just see these specks and dots, and of course I'm zoomed in, but I'm trying to get every little piece of dirt, and maybe it's just not possible with this book. So even though I said, oh, maybe this book will max out at a 9 or 9.2, maybe it maxes out as 8, and it just is what it is. But I'll finish the process. I want to press it. It's definitely got some wrinkling and curling from all of the the wet cleaning. You can see there, just the pages are just so wrinkled that I definitely want to press it out. Right now, it's a pretty rough copy. So I'm gonna let this dry. I might do one more final pass, and then the book will head into the press. All right, I think I'm gonna call it here. So this was the last pass at the wet cleaning. I just feel like this is about as good as it's gonna get, and it is. I would say it's pretty impressive. I mean, there's the corner box again. You can start to see little remnants of it, and you can just continually wipe it down. But the problem is, if you look right around the Marvel logo, you can see again where it starts to lift color a little bit. You start to see a little white in there. I think that what I learned from this exercise is that the wet cleaning process works. You could argue like, well, we'll take a pencil to that, but look at the F. See the paper fibers? If I start rubbing that with an eraser, it's just going to keep pulling up paper. So I think what I learned a couple things. Number one, the wet cleaning process, I like it. I think it does the job for the most part. I like it more than an eraser because I think just you have to be super, super precise with the eraser. And as soon as you accidentally bump color and it pulls up color, the book's done. Second thing is I believe there is a limitation to, it's not a silver bullet. While this does look better, especially if you kind of zoom back, especially if you zoom back on the book like this, it looks way better. It's just not perfect. It's just going to be there's just some of the dirt is so ingrained in the paper that there's not a whole lot you can do. But at this point, I need to press the book and move on. You can see it's curling really bad. Just this poor book's been tortured, honestly. But I want to press it out and see. And like I said, if I can get it completely flat, then with these color breaks, I would say that it probably matches the 8.0 that I worked on a while back, The Amazing Spider-Man with Moon Knight on the cover, where it did have, I would say similar color breaks, maybe the same amount even, like 4 to 6 pretty significant color breaks. This one has maybe closer to 8 now. There is that issue. There is that. But if everything else is fine and a little bit of dirt, maybe you could argue 7.5. We'll see how it turns out, but I'm going to get this book ready for the press and see how it does to get it back flat and back to normal. And then we'll do a little before and after. So we'll see if I can get it completely flattened out. So on to the press. Okay, I'm about to take Transformers number 7 out of the press. It has been sitting in the cold press for probably, I would say, about 6 to 8 hours. So pressed it for 15 minutes and then just left it in there. The only change that I made to the sandwich, and I've been going back and forth on this, is just regular printer paper between the covers and 65-pound cardstock. So this is a cardstock, even though my better judgment says stick with the printer paper. But this book was so wrinkly, I needed to have some something a little bit more solid between the covers to help get out those defects. So let's take a look and see how the book looks after the press. Now, this book was cleaned so many different times I wouldn't be surprised if it needed another press, but there it is. Not bad. It still appears to be a little wrinkly. Even the page is sort of lifting there on its own. But overall, not too bad. But yeah, right in there, just a little bit of something. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if this book needed a second press. But this is why I don't use the cardstock. That's not a shadow, that is a crease. And let me get it out of the sandwich so you can see it in more detail. I keep going back and forth. And this was with very little to no pressure in the press too. And I'm getting a lot of advice on what to do with pressing, and oh, you should do this, you should do that. You should use pressure, you shouldn't. You should use cardstock, you shouldn't. In the end, it's about experimentation and what works for you. And this doesn't work for me. That crease that gets created up and down, I can't stand it. So I am going to press this again, going back to my printer paper. But you just have to kind of stick to your own methods and stick to what works for you. It's your environment, it's your press, but you can see even on the back, you just get that nice crease. And with this particular press, the clamshell, I turn the knob twice to the right. And it's about 180 degrees, so probably one full 360 degree turn. And it has a lot more to go, as you can see on the knob. And so it's very little pressure. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to give this some more humidity to see if I can get some of whatever that is out on the cover. I'm going to go back to printer paper so I can get rid of this crease now that I have created. But from a color perspective, it does look pretty good. And I have heard that in some ways the heat sort of, I don't know if it activates the paper and also helps lift the dirt. I don't believe that to be the case. There's still a lot of dirt there between Megatron's legs. A little spotty. In the white, though, with Ratchet, it's gone. It's just the yellow. It's just really, really stubborn. For the most part, it does look really, really nice. There's the trade. Everything looks pretty good. In the back, from a color perspective, back wasn't too dirty, but looks pretty bright. So I'm going to go ahead and give this book one more humidity treatment, one more press, and then I should be done. I'm going to just call it done there. So one more round and then I'll check it out. All right, back for another check of the book. This book was pressed and then left in the press overnight. And I switched back to printer paper in the sandwich instead of cardstock. So very curious to see how this turned out. Let's see. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to check is, and I realize what that is in the middle right there is not, it's not a crease. It's like some sort of smudge. I don't quite know. It's really hard to see with the naked eye. You really need to angle it in the light. But at first I thought, oh, it was some sort of page wrinkling. So I'm not even sure what that is. So that, yeah, it's like, again, more ink that's been lifted or sort of paper scratching. The book just ended up being in rougher shape than I thought. So again, a great book to experiment on as far as just cleaning goes. But from a pressing perspective, I don't know. I think this one probably still maxes out at 8, but then that just not coming off, maybe that takes it down back to where we started at a 7 or a 7.5, or maybe my original assessment was just too high and I missed these things. So however you want to look at it, not a perfect book by any stretch. And it does look really nice out of the press, which is great. Everything really looks nice, flat, crispy. There was that fold up here, right, that it looked like this entire portion, this top quarter of the book was like folded over, and it's super flat and nice now. So that was at least improved. Let me take it completely out of the sandwich here, because I am curious to see how the presser's crease did. Going back to printer paper. So now that it's out, let's see. It still looks like the crease is there. Maybe it's a little bit better now, but I think it was that cardstock press that did it. But I'm going to put it in the cold press for a day or two and check it again. But this book is what it is. Great experiment. Really enjoyed the process. Always enjoyed learning. And I think that, if I'm, again, why do I do this? Why do I share it, right? So if you're at
an LCS or you're at a comic show, convention, and you're looking at a book and you're like, I could clean that book, and you see a lot of dirt in the yellow, maybe you can, maybe you can't, right? If there's a lot of dirt in the white, Ratchet looks, I don't want to say pristine, especially as your eyes are fixated on whatever that is on the R, but much better. Very, very happy with that. Corner box too after the pressing. Very, very nice. So lots of brightness. I mean, this thing was just so super dirty. So I'm very, very pleased and impressed with the cleaning. The yellow, however, I got to figure that out, how to best get dirt off of a yellow, because I think that's where the book took the biggest hit. You could see right around the Marvel logo, there's just some whitening that was starting to occur there. But all in all, very good experiment. I learned quite a bit. And that is the complete process for wet cleaning and pressing of Transformers number 7. Let me know in the comments what you think. How did the book turn out? Did I improve it at all? I mean, I think that dirt has been lifted, yes, but the comic was already in a particular shape. Maybe I didn't grade it accurately at the beginning. Maybe it was really more of a 6.0, and maybe now it's a 7. I do believe that just getting the dirt off improved it and a little bit of pressing. So maybe a 1.5 bump from whatever it was at the beginning is kind of what I would say. But still, not a book I would send in for pressing, but a great book to practice on. Thank you for watching. Happy collecting, and see you next time.